are really happy to be doing this today. We're really excited. In fact, this has been something that I've been wanting Luz to do for a while. We've really wanted to put some of her heart and soul into what we're doing over here at the Goa Jazz Academy. For those of you who aren't familiar with what we are doing, we're located in Goa, but we're not only based in Goa. We're mostly an online school, and our mission is to make it easy and fun for people to approach improvisation and music by studying the roots of jazz. And it doesn't matter what you like. If you learn a little bit of this, you can do a lot of that. So that's our philosophy, and we have lots of wonderful teachers and students here. So if you ever want to come down to Goa or connect with us online, please do. Lucia is an absolutely incredible performer. She is one of the most wonderful, kind, and nurturing teachers. And combined with this, I think we have something that is really special, at least for those of us who have had the experience of working with her and studying with her. She went to the Berklee College of Music in 2007 on a full scholarship, or a scholarship, and she came back, and she's really had an impact on the scene, the music scene in New Delhi. A lot of young upcoming artists have built their music foundations by studying with her, and of course, those of us who have had a great time playing with Luz always cherish those memories. So before I go any further, let me see if I can get her on board. Let's see. Here we go. View request. Let's try that. There you are.
Hi, Karan.
Hi, Luz. This is terrific.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, and we're really excited to do this. So let's dig right in. Where are you right now?
Oh, I'm in Nagaland, in Dimapur. This is where my parents are, and I decided to finally come home after, I think, 3 years.
That's incredible. You took one of those midnight flights out of Delhi, and
Yeah. Well,
good.
Air India decided they don't want to bring 15 people to Nagaland, and it stopped at Guwahati, so I took a road trip from there.
Wow, that's an adventure. Did you go alone, or did you go with someone to
No, I
accompany you?
came back with my friend who had her surgery in Delhi, and she was supposed to be back home too, so I came back with her. And my cats.
Terrific. Oh yeah, of course. What's your cat's name? Give us a little background on your kittens.
Oh, my cat's name now is Echo because every time I called him, even if I did psst or food, and he always responded. So I decided to name him Echo. He's jet black with a little bit of white now as he's growing up on his belly. And I was fostering him. Nobody wanted him, and
Oh,
I kept him.
that's great. Well, at least you have some company up in Dimapur. Any plans of
Hmm.
heading back to Delhi at some point?
Hopefully end of June if things are better. I mean, if my parents had it their way, they would never send me back. But if things are better, I'll come back in June.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
Well, today is about you and this wonderful playlist that you've put together for us. And folks, the idea of these playlists is to expose people to what artists listen to, what they think about, and also to different genres, right? I mean, I think the nice thing about having access to things like Spotify and Apple Music, and even though they have lots of curated playlists, is to really give a perspective into some of the roots and the origin stories, if you will, into some of our artists. So, Luz, tell us a little bit about your early musical career. Let's sort of create a timestamp on 2007, which is when you went to Berklee, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what got you to there? Or what made you sort of get to that point?
So, I mean, anybody who's from the Northeast knows that they grow up in church, because majority of us are Christians. And Nagas in general, my dad is Malayali. So he had that touch. And then my mom is like a hardcore pastor's daughter. And so I grew up in church. And when I kept, to be honest, like when I kept thinking about my journey, it all started by me picking up my sister's leftover cassettes from dad used to go, she was the eldest, right? So dad used to spoil her rotten, and then he used to just buy her stuff all the time, like music, and I think it was the top 100 Billboard albums,
Nice.
cassettes, and then whatever she used to listen to, I used to just pick up, and then I just got stuck on Whitney and I think Boys to Men, and half of Nagaland was just listening to rock music. And there I was in the corner of a bedroom getting insulted for listening to really cheesy pop and R&B music. But my actual interest in music started in church when I listened to a lot of people sing hymns and singing in harmonies. And then I got curious about harmonies because usually all the men always sang tenor and bass and the women did the alto and soprano. And then my ear started going to that, and then I started listening to secular music, and then I just got stuck on that. So eventually when we went to Delhi for my education, and it wasn't that safe to be here for my dad because of his work. So we were in Delhi, and then I think I got there in grade 3. I just started listening to whatever my friends were listening to in school, and I had a teacher in Carmel Convent who's still there, Mr. Samuel, who just changed my life. He just introduced me to beautiful gospel artists. And, I was in a convent, so a lot of Christian music. And, and then he encouraged me to sing a lot of secular music from there. I remember he even took me to the studio when I was 11 years old for this Doordarshan recording for a series called No Kidding for Children. So that was my first time entering into a studio. And Mr. Samuel was the reason I pursued music, And yeah, from there, he told me about Berklee College of Music, and people at the later half of my school days were talking about Berklee. And then when I was in GMC in Delhi, I started looking up colleges. And I think one of my pastors took me to check out University of North Texas first. And they said strictly jazz or classical. And then it just switched me off. And then I stuck with Berklee again because I knew that I really wanted to pursue soul, right? Because being from church and then going into secular music or even R&B, I was just really interested in belting and wailing and a lot of that. So I really wanted to master that and find out why I was getting pulled towards that more. So that's what made me stick to R&B.
And do you feel you had the right sort of inputs at that point from this mentor who obviously wanted you to study more and to learn more into saying, well, yes, you should follow what you want to do. I mean, if you feel like it's soul and you feel like R&B is your raison d'etre, then that's where you should go, right?
I think he really did. He was just like, know your strengths, and I think you're really good in this, and you should just focus. And somehow I think it was also maybe life or God or I don't know what. It just kept pulling me towards it. And I think at 14, I knew that I was going to be doing this. I think I scarred my parents to death when I told them I was going to be pursuing this. But because of, I think, convent school and church and everyone who was around me, and especially Mr. Samuel, I think I had decided that I was going to do this. And then, of course, when I went to Berklee, I really found my lifelong mentor, I think. And he's still my mentor today. Like, I haven't left him and he hasn't left me. He keeps checking in, sees what I'm doing. And
well, before we go to that, have you been in touch with Mr. Samuel? Have you seen him over the years? Yeah.
No, when I came back to Delhi, I was invited to Carmel to be a chief guest at a particular event, and I revisited Mr. Samuel. And I met him a few times after that. Like, he wanted me to meet the choir. We were called the HUM group, HMM
Cool.
group, which was Heavy Musical Melodies. That's what it stood for.
Right
but
on.
They're still there. And, he wanted me to meet them and, talk with them for a bit. So yeah, I did meet him a couple of times, and he's the senior, I think, choir teacher now, and he's still there, still doing the same thing.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure he's, there's nothing like having a good teacher. I mean, I remember in Delhi growing up, there was Gussie Rick, and he was always the guy who pushed you into thinking about being more disciplined as a musician and opening your ears to all these things. And but having someone who really nurtures and mentors you is very, very very
Yeah.
important, right? And I mean, I
Yes.
think as educators, that's something that is also something that we have to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the idea of teaching, but actually how to mentor. Um, so tell us about Berklee. Before we get to the playlist and things, I want to actually understand a little bit, and maybe some of our students and some of our patrons and friends at the Goa Jazz Academy who aren't familiar with you, I thought it'd be interesting for them to get a little perspective of what you studied there. What was exciting? What got you to the other end?
So when I first got there, other than getting into a little bit of a culture shock where all the teachers were so pally with the students and like, because going from a convent school and convent college to that environment, I was a little, I didn't know how I was supposed to behave. So all I did was I just showed up to classes, and if my teachers asked me to show up to anything, I just showed up. And Berklee for me, I know this wasn't true for a lot of people, but for me, I just showed up and did what I was supposed to do. And then my teachers started making me part of their projects. And, I just didn't say no. If they were like, do this, I was like, okay, I did it. And so they're like, come and sing background for this event. I was like, okay, I'll be there. So I think most of the time I was just lucky because I was reliable. And that just took me places. I got to meet a lot of artists because of them. And I got to learn a lot watching them perform or being their background singer and understanding how they work with their musicians and other colleagues. So,
Who was it who said, there's a quote, 80% of being a good musician is just showing up.
Yeah, this is true for
Well,
me.
and also knowing your stuff. I mean,
yeah, I mean, a little bit of that, but yeah.
little bit,
Yeah.
little bit. No, that's amazing. But you also found, I mean, it's interesting because if you listen, for those of you who are going to check this playlist out, we're going to release it in exactly 1 hour. The first song is by Bobby McFerrin.
Yeah.
And, speaking of 6 degrees of separation, you have a connect with Bobby McFerrin through your mentor, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
so tell us a little bit about this, because mentorship is important, and I want to go down that theme a little bit today. So,
Okay, so my first semester, I was put in a rhythm section grooves class with this teacher named Joey Blake. He was my first semester teacher, and basically in that class, you learn how to write music in the software Finale. That's what we were supposed to put in music, and then you're supposed to print that sheet out and give it to the musicians in class and perform it. So this was the class, and I think I was doing kind of well. I was very new to software, music softwares and everything, and trying to learn how to do that. So Mr. Joey Blake, who I call Papa Joey now, after that semester, he made me, I think he would suggest that I do stuff by the Eagles. And, he would tell me, like, after the class is over, he'd be like, next semester, join my a cappella class. Next semester. And I didn't know anything about him when I got there. First semester, you're just supposed to take the teachers you get. And second semester, you get to pick your teachers after you find out something about them. So he would be like, next semester, join my class. And then I looked him up, and it turned out that he was the bass singer for Bobby McFerrin.
Wow.
And I asked people about him, and they were like, you have to do his class. Like, it's life-changing, and he's amazing with improvisation. And he introduced this thing called circle singing, which is like, he'll make like a soprano, alto, tenor, bass section, and then he'll give us multiple parts in odd meters, and like he'll figure out how to put even in that, and then just improvise. And it was bizarre because I had started my life, even with Mr. Samuel, doing a cappella, like choir music, right? And girls, I mean, no offense, but the girls back then, like, very few were interested in playing. Everybody sang, so we were always stuck doing a cappella. And there were very few of our seniors who played instruments. So Mr. Samuel was like, we're just going to do a cappella now on. So when I went there, I had completely sort of forgotten about, maybe pursuing a cappella there. And it just happened that Papa Joey was teaching circle singing and just focusing on a cappella music. So he also had this class called Voice as an Instrument. And that's where it just completely changed my mind, because until then I was just a singer, but I never considered it like a separate thing, like this is an instrument I have to focus on and master. And I never liked my tone until I got to that class. He's just started making me think of a voice as a separate thing altogether than something that's part of my body. And that just changed my life, you know. And when I got there, a lot of people were giving me a lot of advice, like, you know, oh, your tone is more suitable for jazz, or your tone is, you know, very sweet, it's more. But he was just like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? What do you really love about music? And I kept telling him the artists that I loved. And then he's the one who introduced me to Motown and everybody. Like, he basically gave me a history of what I liked. And that's when I understood like what I liked about that genre, you know. So history is everything for me.
Right.
I think R&B, like when I understood, and a lot of teachers after that, they called me for African studies class and everything. And when I understood the history is when I fell in love with R&B and soul even more, you know. So Berklee played an important part in that. Even background singing, it was a huge part of rhythm and blues and gospel music that's sort of getting forgotten now. No one's using backup singers that much anymore. They're doing their own backup singing and stuff like that. So every time they would say, come sing backgrounds, and, you know, there'll be 5 of you, and then, you know, figure out how to blend and sing for other people, I would just be there. And that gave me so much joy. I never enjoyed being the front person, actually, but I just enjoyed singing with other people and utilizing voice as an instrument, like Papa Joey taught me.
There's an interesting thing I wanted to talk to you about, and that is that one of the things I loved about doing sets with you and playing music with you is how much intent and purpose goes behind every song. It's not just that there has to be a really good reason for it to be in the set. I mean, a justifiable emotional connect to it. And I think that's really, really cool. And I'm curious as to when did you figure that out? Because not all of us always have that, right? Not all of us pay attention to lyrics. Not all of us pay attention to the emotional connect and the content of music. You know, you're just like, well, this sounds good and it's great, which is great, right? But to do things with conviction means that you have to kind of take a step back and say, why?
Yeah.
So is that something that Papa Joey taught you, or have you
No,
always
actually,
sort of thought?
no, he always did songs he enjoyed and he knew he performed well. Like, and there wasn't anything he couldn't do well. But honestly, I think I got so nitpicky with songs after I was part of a wedding band in Boston, where I didn't get a choice and I had to perform the top 50 songs at the time for every wedding. And after you do about 20 of those, you're just done just picking songs that you don't care about, like, you know. And then I was just like, okay, if I am going to do covers all the time, and if I am going to do projects for people all the time, I might as well do songs that I really connect with in that moment. So it just became, sometimes I know for our sets, it became songs for me, because it would be like hours and hours of just picking songs that I felt in the moment and I knew I could perform with conviction, you know. So I know I used to drive you crazy, and we used to have nights together. We used to have nights together when we used to just pick songs, you know, and I'd be like, Karan, come and do this with me, or like try to get the band involved. Guys, what are you feeling? Is there anything you'd like me to sing? And someone would suggest one song which had no singer in it.
Usually me.
But no, not you. It was sometimes the drummer. But yeah, you know, I know that, you know, I really troubled you guys with that. But I think I just wanted to look convincing and, you know, at least try to get the audience to relate to me on stage while I was singing, you know. But yeah, I mean, Papa Joey always told me, if you can't act it loose, like in that moment, if you can't feel like you feel it, don't do it. Just don't perform the song. He did advise that. But one thing that I was taught a lot when I was in Boston was, whether you like it or not, when you're on stage, if the audience is looking, give it your best, you know. But when I got to Delhi, I think I just got picky about what I wanted to give, you know.
Yeah,
there
and
I
I
was
think
learning.
that's an important distinction for, I mean, any performers to do things with authenticity and
Yeah.
conviction and sound
Yeah.
like you mean it. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, whether you're doing a bar gig or a presentation of your work,
Yeah.
it's got a. I mean, people are there for something, right? And they need
Yeah.
to walk away with something. And I think that's a really important um, life lesson more than anything.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what do you feel is the essence of R&B and soul, which I think comes across really well in this playlist, right? And there's a history to it, but let's have a little chat on what you think that goes down.
I mean, I was thinking about this as, when I figured you might ask me this question, but if I think about it, at least for me, the essence is just, I mean, at least with the playlist that I've given you, it just talks about the time, like what people felt at that particular era, whatever they were facing, right? It just
Right.
tells you, again, history, but also in that moment, whatever they were feeling or whatever the focus was at that point, whether it was slavery or whether it was transitioning, heartache, pain, it just told a story in every era. And for me, that is the essence, like the story that they were trying to tell. And if you can get that and perform it, that's all I cared about, If you can convince someone, even if no matter the race or whatever, like if you can convince someone that that's what you felt and that you understand and you relate to it and, you can perform it, that's all I was trying to focus on, really.
Being authentic, Luz, all
Yeah.
the way. Very cool. So can you walk us a little bit through the playlist and some of the
Mm-hmm.
ideas? What are people going to expect? What are they going to listen to on Sunday?
So Sunday playlist, at least, I was trying to, I don't know, with the kind of days we have in Delhi, and if people do get a day off on Sundays, like I'll tell you the vibe here, because it's just what I went off from being here. And what Sundays is the day people are like, it's the day of rest, right? And I'm sure it's pretty much the same in Goa. Nobody wants to do anything on Sunday. And I
Or
very
any day,
rarely,
for that matter.
yeah.
We've been trying to get our AC fixed for like 6 weeks.
Oh, that's why. That's okay.
It's all good. It's all good.
That explains something right now. But okay.
Sorry, that's another chat.
Okay. So I started off with, Bobby McFerrin, of course, and because it immediately gives you the vibe to relax, and then slowly into all the songs that influenced me in this house. Just to be clear, a lot of Motown and everything was introduced to me later in life, much later in life, once I maybe went to Berklee even. But Whitney Houston and Lauryn Hill and the Fugees or Tupac, Notorious Big, everybody like that. My sister was listening to part of it because of the top 100 songs at the Billboard, so I would catch on to that and just grab onto the cassettes that she had with her at the time. So I actually purposely picked songs that were not popular by these artists that I loved, like just because I wanted, if there weren't people out there that was listening to these artists, that they would pay attention to these songs. Because of course, when you Google people, immediately the songs that show up are whatever their greatest hits were, right? But
Right.
I tried to pick songs that were not so popular, but I loved and I related to at the time. So you have Bobby McFerrin, you have Marvin Gaye, you have the Isley Brothers, you have Stevie Wonder, and then you have Prince, which you and I have done a lot of together.
Yeah.
And then you have Boyz II Men, you have Notorious Big, and then of course after Boston, what I listened to a lot in this house whenever I'd come back for a vacation was non-stop Erykah Badu, non-stop Jill Scott, and non-stop D'Angelo. So that's there too. And just songs that I loved by them, which are not very popular, but I loved the story behind them. So I hope you guys enjoy it out there and that you like it as much as I do.
Yeah, it's a really great playlist. I've been listening to it for the last couple of days. And what's interesting with listening to music, right? And especially a playlist like this, is that when listening to the roots of music sometimes reminds you of the fact that no matter how cool you think something new is, it's there. It's all there. I mean, you
It's
listen
all
to those
there.
great Pino Palladino bass lines on that D'Angelo tune. You listen to the
Yeah.
Isley Brothers. I mean, that's the stuff. I mean, that's what all the Wolfpacks and all this great music is referencing. And it all comes through. So
Yep.
so having a nice playlist that especially that we can sort of offer to students who want to listen to this genre and get back to is really a gift more than anything. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for doing that. That's
No,
really
my
cool.
pleasure. This was actually really fun. I mean, I think, I don't know, you would agree with this. When you become a teacher, you get so focused on whatever the students want to learn right now. And I think sometimes you forget, right, where you've come from, like all the things that you've done and why you
Yeah.
are the way you are. And, this was a great way to revisit that. And I can't thank you enough for making me do this, because I was just like, okay, since I'm home in Nagaland, I was just like, what did I listen to in this room a lot as a kid? And I was just trying to think of all that. And that's basically what I've put into this playlist, just stuff that I enjoyed and loved, and things that made me cry or made me want to dance. Like, I really loved these people that you're about to listen, and I really hope people like it too. And that you guys out there who are online right now watching us will listen to it carefully, especially the lyrics.
I wanted to also talk about your live. What is the one live act that you've seen, whether it was in Boston or thereafter, that's really had an impact on you?
Wow. So the last thing that I remember, I mean, I've been lucky. I've seen Alicia Keys, and I've seen my favorite lady, India Arie, and I've seen Erykah Badu, and I've seen all, like, whoever could. I got really lucky being in Boston. But the last gift that my mentor gave me was a concert of Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
I think and he was already in his late 70s or something, and he just announced that he was going to be a dad again, and I was shocked. And he was still as young as ever, being naughty, and India Arie did a guest appearance with him, and he was just a genius, and I got to go backstage thanks to my mentor and meet him for a little while. But watching him and his band live, I think I understood why my mentor loved him so much, because he was a ridiculous performer, just ridiculous. And his daughter was there singing backup for him, Aisha. And just watching his interaction with his band and just everything that they do to back him up, really. I mean, they've had years and years of time with him, and they still perform his greatest hits, like with the same intensity and love. And I was just so envious of them on stage. They were just having a blast,
It's
you know?
incredible. Yeah. And
Yeah, like
I
two,
mean, it's incredible. Prince, James Brown. I mean,
yeah.
all of these
They
guys had,
loved their bandmates, and their
yeah.
bandmates loved them, and just that interaction. And I think I kind of feel sad to think about how bands are kind of dying away right now. No one's really, I mean, this is something I've told you repeatedly since I've come to Delhi, like that. I feel sad that not band members aren't committed to just one group. And this is another conversation, of
Right.
course, but everyone's
Yeah.
so spread out and trying to find work everywhere and playing with 10 other bands. But I miss what these people have on stage. Like when I watch my favorite artists, what they have on stage with their band, and they travel everywhere with them. And even I keep telling my students about Sting and Lisa Fisher, their kind of dynamic between one another, and
What
how
was what was sorry, what was that movie? Wasn't there a movie about um
yeah, 20
20
Feet from Stardom.
20 Feet from Stardom?
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah,
I
that's a
relate
great
to
one.
that woman so much, because she just loved singing backup, and she didn't want all that fame, and she loved singing background music. And she just has this, connect with her front person, whoever she sings with, and she's okay doing her part in the back. And like, and I just admire her so much. So, I mean, I just hope people can also admire people. Like, I feel like right now all my students are so fascinated. They're like, they want to be the it thing right now, but I keep trying to tell them to relax and watch it. If there is a singer, watch the band and what they do for one another, the interaction between what the band is really doing for the singer, you
Yeah.
know And I just want that to come back. I kind of miss that. I had that in Boston, and I miss that here a lot. And I hope I can have that again one day in Delhi. I miss you. I hope you'll come back to Delhi too and perform with us.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna do it. I miss Delhi too. It's been a while. In fact, the last gig I did in Delhi, no, one of the last gigs I did before I left was with you.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. But I think what's interesting is that if we look at this playlist as a timestamp, right? It takes you almost through the early 2000s, right? But there's a lot of music now that students and people are coming in and listening to, right? And a lot of YouTube artists, right? Which is really interesting. There's incredible stuff out there. There's so much proficiency. There's so much creation. It's really cool. But who do you think is exciting? I mean, do you think there's something out there that's especially unique that maybe is a grain away from everything else that has, I would say, someone like what maybe Leanne La Havas was a few years ago, right? Like
Yeah.
really sort of, she came in under the radar, but she was,
Yeah, I mean, I know there are many artists, and thanks to my students, I've also discovered or learned to love artists like Billie Eilish, of course. But I honestly was in love with this singer called Abby Smith when she was really underground, and Madison Ryan Ward a couple of years ago. And now they're getting really, I think Abby Smith is now Yeba, and Madison still.
Oh.
Yeba.
I think I saw a Yeba challenge or something.
Yeah, everyone's been doing it. But I'm looking forward to her album when it actually comes out. And I mean, I also love that PJ Morton has evolved into this. He's kind of becoming a generic famous artist now, but he also wrote a lot of music for a lot of other artists, and now he's trying to do his own thing. And kind of gives me hope that maybe I can be that one day.
Oh, hell yeah, Luz.
PJ. I look up to PJ right now. And honestly, like, I haven't been listening too much because my students give me enough to listen to. So now that I'm here, I'm just going back to my roots. That's why I said this playlist couldn't have come at a better time, because new music right now, I think there are very few that I love. And if there's someone out there that Yeba posts about or Madison posts about, or then I listen to these people. But right now, I'm kind of listening to what Bobby McFerrin told me once, which is, if you really want to develop your own sound, stop listening to other people and just focus on music. And I'm trying to do that right now. So I think he told me once that he stopped listening to music for 8 months, and that just gave him something. And I'm trying to see if I can do that, because I've been struggling to write for a long time. I'll write and then not write. And so now that I'm here, I'm home, and I have a little time to relax, I'm just trying to see if I can focus on writing right now.
Well, that's an important point too, and I think it segues into the next sort of big question about music education and music development for all of us, right? And you talked a little bit about it earlier on, and that was that, you said you weren't happy with your tone, right? And that's a really interesting thing, because I mean, most of us aren't happy with the sound that we make, right? And I think it takes a lot of listening to yourself. I mean, one of the things that I've had to work a lot on this year is to record myself even more and play and listen to myself. And I feel like, those are things that you need people to tell you. You need that kind of mentorship to say, well, you have to trust yourself to kind of listen to. So what do you think? I mean, what do you think in light of issues like that, not being secure as a musician, not feeling like you have the right tone, not feeling like you have the right skills or the foundations? What are the foundations that you think musicians really need in this 22nd century?
This is a conversation I keep having with my students, but I think sometimes when we get stuck, we can only go back to listening, like really listening without trying to imitate anybody or copying anybody. Like, just listen and one of the things that I find essential for artists these days is like know, like if you like somebody, listen to everything by them, not just the best songs by them, but like everything, because even an album contains everything that the artist has been, the ups and downs, and maybe we just get to listen to the best version of what the label wanted them to be popular, but what they may have written themselves, then, they could be kind of hidden away and not very popular, right? So if you really want to know your artist, listen to everything in that album and see if you really love that artist for everything that they are or just the popular stuff, So I think listen and just listen to everything possible. That's what I keep telling my students so that you can start figuring out a lot of my singers are lost about who they are and their tone, and they're really struggling. It's just because they've been listening to whatever everyone's been listening to, and sometimes it's okay to just listen to an instrumental track and not listen to another singer, right? So I just encourage everyone to listen to every instrument, every type, every genre, and then figure it out, see what you really like rather than what everyone wants you to like.
That's a great concluding point for this conversation. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
those are important life lessons, and I think we're gonna. There's a lot of stuff. There were some really great questions in the comments as well. So I think
Oh, there was?
we should think about this and get back to some of these at some point. Um,
Sure.
but Luz, I mean, this is really great. I'm really grateful you put this together. You really spent a lot of time putting this
I did. I
this
did.
together, and I'm witness to that. We started work. I mean, you started work on this last week, and I think we finished. Well, you finished it 2 days ago. So
Yeah.
I hope everyone really enjoys it, and I know you will. I mean, there's a perspective, there's history, there's everything in this. So thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank you,
doing this. Thank you for
Karan.
coming on board, and
Thank you
I
for
hope you
having
have a
me.
great. What's your plan for the next couple of weeks? Are you going to be in Dimapur, or are you going to head back to
Yeah,
Delhi?
I'm going to be here. I've been teaching from here. I've been teaching online, but teaching less, just trying to find more time for myself this particular month before I come back to Delhi. I don't know what it is about coming back to Delhi. It immediately gets me a little tense, but as as much as I'm here, I'm trying to enjoy time with my family and, just focus on relaxing
Wonderful.
finally.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Relaxing, right. That's
Yeah.
important. Yeah, Luz has no problems teaching for 365 days for 25 hours a week. It's
I love my
commendable.
students.
It's great. Well, thanks a lot, Luz. And guys, the playlist is out. It's going to be out in about half an hour. And the link will be in our bio. And tune in for the next one, which will be in a couple of weeks. Luz, we love you. We can't wait to see you
Oh,
again.
I love you too. Thank you. Thank you so
And
much. And
thank you
everyone
guys for.
out there right now, I know some are joining right now, but I'm just reading what everyone's writing. And for everyone who said they want to hear stuff by me, thank you so much. I'm going to do my best. And Mimi, all my students I see, thank you for joining in. And thank you everyone for having me today and listening. Thanks so much, Karan.
And Aman, you can check the whole thing out. It'll be up on.
Hi, Aman. Hi, Aman. Hi, you
Okay.
guys. Hi. Okay.
Okay, guys. Thanks, Deuce. Bye, guys.
Take
See
care.
you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.